This is Francis Sideco, Principal Analyst at TIRIAS Research, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Kevin Krewell and Jim McGregor, who just got back from MediaTek's Analyst Day in Scottsdale, Arizona last week. Gents, and I use that term very loosely. Let's start with a quick summary of what you guys learned. Who wants to start? Jim, Kevin?
I'll start. First off, this is usually a completely NDA event, so to have it to where we can talk about it is actually very nice. Few things under NDA we can't talk about, future products and stuff like that. But for the most part, MediaTek talked about where they are and where they're going in terms of their corporate strategies and everything else. Financially, they were kind of in that trough last year because of the downturn in smartphones and everything else, which is still half their business in terms of revenue. But
More
it
than half.
started, yeah, more than half, 52%, I believe. It started coming up again, so they're growing again. But they continue to expand their TAM, much like a lot of the other semiconductor companies we've seen over the kind of IoT era. And they talked about those. Some of the key areas were data center, automotive, spatial computing, IoT, both consumer and industrial IoT, and Gen AI. So, I mean, they talked about all the growth of a lot of these segments and their strategy for a lot of these segments and, what makes them unique, what gives them an advantage going forward. And I have to admit that, some of their arguments are definitely resonating, both, I think, with the industry watchers and with people, potential customers within the industry.
Kevin, what were some of your initial thoughts?
Well, yeah, they're looking to expand their TAM and their SAM, and that's they're looking at adjacent areas like automotive is a classic move from a smartphone as intelligent cars become like mobile smartphones. It makes perfect sense for them to get into that business. And now that they've partnered with NVIDIA, they have actually some heavy duty capability there and support from NVIDIA. And because they're very closely aligned with mainland China automobile manufacturers, they're making some good progress there.
Yeah,
One other market that Jim did mention was RedCap, which is their reduced capacity 5G modem technology. They've got a fully integrated solution there, which is a very small footprint, low cost, relatively low cost. And it provides a real benefit to IoT devices, backup systems. You could have a modem, but if the connection goes down, either cable or something, you could kick back into this RedCap and get some basic connectivity still.
yeah,
That was an interesting area. Go ahead.
Let's double click a little bit on a couple of these kind of segments that they are expanding into. Clearly, like we said, they're very strong in smartphones. It looks like they have a solid position there, probably coming back up. But yeah, let's talk about some of these areas like auto and data center. So maybe starting with auto. So Kevin, you were mentioning that they were very tied into the Chinese segment. Is that kind of the target area that they're going for, or is it a global strategy for them?
It is a global strategy, but I think their ability to hook into the China market because of their close association through the smartphone business gives them a direct connection there. And I think they've brought in some new people to market the automotive products that have a deep experience. Ephraim Chambly came in. He's got a lot of background, including time at GM and such. So he's really he's going to run that business, and I think that he provides a lot of experience there that he can help move the business forward. I think they've got a really good opportunity here in automotive, and the zonal architecture, as well as just the adaptability of the infotainment systems today opens up a great possibility for them. They've got all they've got the AI, they've got the ISPs and chipsets to support all of the functionality you need in a high-end automotive solution.
Jim, any thoughts from you on auto?
Yeah, first off, one reason China is so important, not just because of their connectivity, but because the China market's growing. There's so many new OEMs over there focused on EVs and AVs. So that's going to be a huge opportunity, and it's growing while the US and other Western markets are stagnating. So it kind of gives them a foot in the door. But I think the other part of this, especially for automotive, is their partnership. And I think this is probably the most impressive thing that I saw at this event was how they're leveraging partnerships. And I think they can leverage them even more broadly than they are today. So right now they're leveraging like TSMC for automotive in terms of the Foveros or the not Foveros, the CoWoS packaging, advanced packaging technology, as well as their partnership with NVIDIA for, a high-end, high-performance
EMIB.
GPU and AI
Oh,
engine,
yeah.
as well as their complete software stack. So
Yep.
they're going to be supporting their entire solution, or all their solutions are going to be supported by NVIDIA's Drive OS. So, I mean, they're leveraging partnerships on the foundry/packaging side. And they've got it's important to note that they have both TSMC and Intel there for packaging and foundry partners. And they're also leveraging NVIDIA in terms of the IP and the software. And I think that they can leverage those even farther out. I think there's a huge opportunity to take some of what they're doing in automotive from those partnerships into other segments.
Well, I think both.
Yeah,
There's two things.
specifically
Go ahead, Ken.
just want to say specifically in the packaging, they have access to Intel EMIB, and with the CoWoS and Info at TSMC.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think between your two comments, two things stand out at me. One is, their full software stack along with the hardware plus with the partnership. I think that brings a lot. But also the fact that, in China, one of the things that's been kind of slowing down the move to zonal architecture just in the global industry is because a lot of OEMs still have, legacy designs and platforms that they have to transition to that. In China, there's a lot of brand new OEMs out there that are greenfield, and they're being able to jump right into zonal architecture. So I gotta assume that's also accelerating a lot of this adoption.
Well, and you got to remember that a lot of these startups are more willing to take off-the-shelf solutions.
Yeah.
If you look at the history of the automotive segment, especially
Yeah.
Western automotive segment in the US and Europe, they traditionally don't like to use off-the-shelf solutions. They like
Yeah.
customized solutions. When I was at ST, we had to do 5 different versions of the same flash chip, just a memory
Yeah.
chip, because they all wanted a different pinout. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I mean, there's an opportunity there, but I also think the strategy they're taking is going to leverage itself. It may be a huge opportunity with some of these Western OEMs and tier ones. We've already seen, and it's kind of behind the scenes. A lot of the OEMs, especially the US OEMs, are hedging their bets. They're working with multiple different vendors, and in some cases, even working with semiconductor partners on custom solutions. So this may open up some doors being able to do customization through that advanced packaging. And we've already seen definitely a pushback in the Western markets against, having a standardized solution, especially that's going to be powered by Apple or Google.
Well,
And
speaking
don't
of,
forget don't forget the AI side. You don't think of or you don't hear as much about AI from MediaTek as it probably should. They've got a lot of AI capability, and they're up there like the 6th generation, I think, of their AI chip, their AI solution, their network processor was they call it an APU, not an NPU.
Well, sometimes they call it an APU, sometimes they call it an
Yeah.
NPU.
But the Gen AI functionality is going to show up more and more in automotive as the car generates inquiries and generates ideas to the driver. There's especially, I think this is what they're betting on in the future, is that so much of AI is going to be part of automotive, and that they want to be on that because they've got that Gen AI capability.
Well, and if there's ever a use case that absolutely needed verbal AI assistants, it's in the car. That way people don't
Right.
get as distracted as they currently are. But well, so let's talk about a little bit about customization, Jim. That speaking of that, that actually leads us to another area that MediaTek is expanding their TAM on, which is on data centers. So I know there's a lot talked about that and their approach there. Maybe we can start delving into that.
Yeah, very much like what we've seen with some of the other vendors in this segment for networking in the data center and other solutions, whether it's accelerators or whatever. They're looking for customized solutions. And they're starting out of the gate providing those customized solutions with their own technology. They have a lot of their own networking technology developed in-house, which is good. They're leveraging ARM cores where they can, so they've got the low power CPU cores, and they're partnering with others, and especially once again that comes to that packaging technology, the ability to use advanced packaging to put all these pieces together to come up with custom chips for the data center. And the data center architecture is changing drastically. You know, we went from just servers to now we have all kinds of different accelerators. Now we have an internal accelerator with the DPU/IPU, depending on who you're talking to. So it's going to change drastically. And quite honestly, you know, as we start looking out, and I think Intel did a good job of this at their Direct Connect event. They started talking about, you know, how we look at what a chip is going to change drastically over the next 10 years as we try to cram more memory, especially high bandwidth memory, more CPUs, more accelerators, more networking capability, all into a smaller single package. We're going to be looking at, you know, 1,000 to 2,000 watt solutions, you know, and, you know, and MediaTek is getting there by providing custom solutions now. And obviously, it's going to scale. It's going to be a vast array of different types of solutions. But providing that customization is really going to target a lot of customers that are really, you know, changing their architecture on the fly, especially like the hyperscalers. They're developing their own architecture. So having somebody that's willing to go off and do those custom chipsets is a huge opportunity.
I was actually going to ask if that opportunity was something they were targeting, because it sounds right up their alley. And it's not just processing resources anymore, like you said. I mean, memory and networking, both east-west and north-south communications, are going to be extremely critical now and into the foreseeable future. Go ahead, Kevin.
One thing that you should also note as part of their expertise, they pointed out that they're really good at squeezing out power. And this is their power efficiency story for these applications, because you just talked about, you know, 1,000-watt power envelopes for some of these designs. You don't like to build it that high. You want to squeeze as much power out as you can. They have that experience with optics. They have experience with Wi-Fi 7 and stuff. If you need a distributed solution where it's an edge solution that's got, you know, compute as well as communication capability. So they've got that expertise.
And they did indicate that they're shipping today. They just, like a lot of customers in this segment, a lot of companies in this segment, they can't announce who their customers are. So
yeah, especially when it's the custom side of the business, that's kind of but you kind of want to tout it too, but you know, so there's definitely a balance to be struck there. Anything we need to talk about? I know we've left it to the last, but anything we talk about on the connectivity or even smartphone side that we should mention?
Yeah, we should. And you know, obviously MediaTek has changed its under their new CEO, has changed its strategy drastically from being that fast follower to being on the leading edge with a lot of technologies. They now have, you know, flagship quality smartphone chipsets, and they're gaining some traction with them, especially some of the Chinese OEMs. And they have a full suite of connectivity options. You know, when you start talking about Wi-Fi 7, RedCap, you know, trying to think of optical, you know, they are really trying to be on the leading edge, or as close to the leading edge as they possibly can with a lot of these technologies. So that gives them an opportunity to kind of leverage both that, you know, licensed IP capability along with that in-house engineering expertise. So it's impressive what they're doing as a company to really, you know, kind of rise up. Now, with that said, they still have challenges. you have to remember that some of the segments they're going after, they're kind of latecomers, like industrial IoT. That's a segment that is heavily populated by companies that have very broad solutions, ranging from sensors to SoCs to connectivity options, and have complete software suites. So I would say, one of the biggest challenges I see MediaTek is definitely being able to support that build out of the software ecosystem for all these markets that they want to go after.
So I was
Also,
actually
just supporting a lot of customer base. I mean, they're not used to
Yeah.
supporting like, hundreds of customers. Their distribution channels probably can use some work as well. They need to, I think, expand their distribution capabilities in the United States and North America.
You guys read my mind. I was going to try to close this out by asking you guys, hey, these are great strategies, but what does MediaTek have to do to make sure they execute? And you guys have both answered the question. So anything else to add along those lines before we close?
I guess the other thing is you have to remember that they're now a global company, and we're in a very, in some ways, a tight labor market. In some ways, it's been shifting over the past few years, but it's still going to be, I think, a challenge, especially as AI becomes important, software becomes important, all these things. It's going to be a challenge to, ramp up on a global basis to support new customers, to support new software ecosystems and everything else. But you have to remember that MediaTek is one of these companies, one of the, I'd say, top 10 semiconductor or top 10 technology companies that's been able to provide, complete solutions to the market over the past couple decades. So you can't count them out of anything.
Kevin, last thoughts?
Yeah, they're a company that is not as well known as their competitor, but in the United States at least. But in Europe and certainly in Asia, they're very well known and they're very capable. They have close connections with companies like Oppo and Vivo on the smartphone business, and they expand that. So I think they're well positioned, and they've got all the IP you need to be successful in this business. And it's just a matter of making some strategic decisions, which they've made. And I think they're well positioned for the future.
And, that's one thing that Kevin brought. That's a good point, Kevin, is the fact that they're not well known, especially in the US and some of the markets they're expanding into. And I can pretty much guarantee that probably every home in the US has at least one MediaTek chip in it.
Oh, yeah.
They're leaders in set-top boxes, they're leaders in digital TVs, they're leaders in so many areas, even things like, electric toothbrushes and clocks and stuff like that.
They're a major supplier of controllers or processors to Amazon for the Alexa products.
There you go.
So they're all over
those are everywhere for sure.
Yep. I can't use the A word there because right now it'll answer me.
Well, just make sure you don't call Siri Alexa because she gets really upset about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen those YouTube videos. They're pretty funny.
That was a while. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, on that note, looks like a lot of great things going on at MediaTek. We'll have to watch them throughout the year. But thanks for your time, guys, and another great chat.